welcome back into Talking Fitchburg. We're continuing our series, Getting to Know Our Alders. That's the way I've phrased it. And today we're bringing in a new alder for District 4. And if I get your name wrong, Nicole, you have every right to be mad at me. But
no.
District, oh man, I already blew it. Nicole Vafadari, District
Beautiful.
4.
Perfect.
Okay.
Well done. I've never had anyone get my first name wrong with Nistrict, but it's memorable. I like it.
And it's forever.
Forever.
This interview is
It's forever.
Nicole, thank you so much for coming in. Yeah. I know you have a busy schedule and everything, but so excited to have you here. We'll start with just for people who want to get to know who you are, that maybe not in District 4, that didn't get to meet you during election season, whatever. Who's Nicole?
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate you doing this and kind of getting exposure to the whole community of Fitchburg, as you say, because I am here for District 4, but also here for all of Fitchburg. So yeah, my name is Nicole. I've lived in Fitchburg for about 5.5 years at this point. And I've lived in Madison for about 13 or 14. I'm originally from Texas, and I moved here to work at Epic, like a lot of folks.
All right.
Fell in love with Madison entirely. I lived in the Midwest for a little bit and just really enjoy the people of the Midwest. They're my people. So I moved here, and then just kind of progressing through my career, I've always had a draw to be involved in my community. In college, I worked on the Obama campaign. I was one of the organizing interns in college. So it was really a passion of mine. And so in 2020, I think, towards the end of 2020, a seat came open on the Verona School Board. So I ran for that. I lost that election, but then during that process, I had talked to the Fitchburg rep who was on the board, and she had been Amy Almond. She's an amazing community leader and servant. She'd been on the board for about 16 years. Which I think we both agree.
Incredible. That is a lot of meetings, a lot of stuff to deal with.
Yeah, even when her babies were out of the district, she still stayed on the board to continue serving students. So a huge shout out to Amy Almond. But I had talked with her during the course of the election, and then found out that she was stepping down. So I went out for her appointment, and I was selected and appointed, and then ran and got reelected. And so that was my kind of first foray into public service in the Madison area. And since then, I've just kind of even more fallen in love with Fitchburg and being a representative of Fitchburg, especially in the Verona schools. It's such a strong school district, and it's such a melting pot of all these different communities. And I think, a fact that a third of the student base in the VASD is Fitchburg students. And so as part of that, just kind of falling more and more in love with my city, I decided when there was an open seat, because my alder, Randy Udell, was going out for county board, which he is now elected to and serves on, I decided to throw my hat in the ring. So, and then since then, I've been elected. A little bit about me personally, I have a healthcare IT consulting company. So we work with hospitals and rehab centers on implementing kind of marketing and relationship management tools. And I have an awesome husband, 2 kids. They're 3 and 6. So my life is a little busy. I don't have any stains on this white shirt, though. I'd like to get 5 gold stars for that
Totally
accomplishment.
Relate. 5 and 7.
Oh, so you're in the thick too. You understand?
Oh my gosh, I barely ever wear white just because of that.
No, it's reserved.
I can't get out the door without
100%.
it. 100%.
I just bar them from that part of my closet because it's just a nightmare. So yeah, life is super busy, and but I'm so excited to be here and a part of this council and in this community.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I would love to ask follow-up questions.
Please,
but
please.
we're gonna hold that.
Okay.
Well, I'll reserve that. Let's talk about District 4. District 4 is probably by far the biggest district, and the rural part. So it's very interesting because it's a balance, right?
Yep.
I mean, the city is definitely growing, a lot of things there. But tell us a little bit about District 4 for people who aren't familiar with it and what's happening there.
Yeah. So as you stated, it's the largest district. Land mass-wise, right? It's kind of like if you're looking at a map of Fitchburg, it's like the bottom half, maybe 2/3, one might argue. But It's very diverse in terms of rural and urban, as you've stated. And I think the piece that drew me to love this district, apart from me living there.
By default, you do live there.
I mean, I think it's the best district because I live there. I think it's really interesting because this is a district where there's so much. There's not two camps, I wouldn't say, but there's so many different communities to serve. And to try and look at service of this community as not a zero-sum game, right? That's something that happens a lot. It's either this group gets it and this group doesn't, or vice versa. And growing up in Texas, I grew up in an Irish, Catholic, Iranian household, right? There were all the contradictions growing up. And it made for like a really beautiful home where all these different viewpoints were heard and listened to, sometimes very passionately. And I grew up around people who had lots of land, a more rural and urban part of my city as well. And so I really understand the beauty of having that integration within your community. And I really want to serve the people of my district in a way that feels, again, like it's not that zero-sum game, and that folks are really brought to the table, especially our rural community, because that's how Fitchburg was started.
Yeah. And so this, now going back and following, because I knew you were going to tie this together pretty well, but you got involved. And I think that's a big thing. And you can get involved in so many different levels. So you didn't mention, I'm going to mention this, you've been on Board of Review as well. So not only did you serve as a school board member, but you also served in a Board of Review. But getting involved in your community, I love that you say that, because that to me is that's why you're here. You want to get involved. So for people outside listening to like, wow, Nicole can get involved and maybe I should. What would you say to those to get involved in your community? And it can be at so many different levels.
I really appreciate that question, because I think it's so easy for all of us, rightfully so, to think about how busy we are, right? As I was reading a stat that working moms today spend more time with their children than stay-at-home moms did in the 60s, which is super interesting because our lives are just so different, right? And so as a mom of young kids, as you can understand as a parent of young children, right, all of that time seems so precious, because it is. And so I think the key for me is to really focus on what makes sense for your life that won't take away from your family, won't take away from your life, your mental health, your sense of connection, but also will serve your community. And so I think that's, for example, when I got elected to this position, I could have technically stayed on the school board, which is something for a split second I considered doing because I love kids so much.
Oof, that'd have been a little tough.
It would have, because I had to take a step back and say, like, that's not really fair to my family or fair to the communities that I serve, right? Like if I have, something for the school board and something for city council, which one do I go to? Which one do I pick? And so I think, as we've learned throughout COVID and kind of mental health awareness, like boundaries are sometimes the best form of self-care. And so I think really understanding like what type of volunteering works for you. So I used to volunteer at, before I had kids, I volunteered at the Boys and Girls Club being a tutor and a mentor after school, right? So that was, committing one day a week. I was on the Wisconsin Women's Network board, and that was one meeting a month, right? So I think encouraging people to find, number one, what you really enjoy. So if you enjoy being around kids, find something that's centered around kids. Right. If you enjoy being outside, I'm sure the Tree Advisory Committee or some other sort of group would love to have you there. If you love to talk to people, we have an amazing senior center over here. So I would say figure out what you love and what will fuel you, not drain you, and then figure out what's realistic for you. If it's one day a month or one day a quarter, that's great. It's not any more or less. And if it means that you can continue to do it and be consistent, I think that's so much better.
I think you learn a lot about the community. Like
100%.
Being an employee, there were things that walking in that I didn't, I would take advantage for it. Where don't live in Fitchburg, but boy, when I leave here, I'm like, man, I wish we had this. and it's because the sense of knowing what's going on in your community, and you're right there. You can get involved and meet people that you maybe never meet, and get involved, and it leads to things. I mean, I think it's just that sense of community is that.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, if people want to get to know you and have questions, whether it's from the district or just in general, just whatever, I'm sure you'll be happy to answer those. But how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have, I think our Alder pages are upcoming, and they're going to soon be on the website. I know the team is hard at work on finalizing those. I can also be reached by my email, nicole.vafadari@fitchburgwi.gov. And then also, if there's ever anything outside of that, city council meetings are a great place to have kind of public feedback. I really encourage everyone who hasn't been to a meeting to come to one, because I think it's a great also sense of involvement and civic engagement that you don't often get to see. And so, yeah, there's a myriad of ways. I also am working on completing a newsletter. So I have right now a blog just on my website where I update I try and do every 3 to 4 week update. And so I'm trying to get a newsletter finalized so I can keep constituents up to date who would like to be involved and just kind of share what I'm doing around in the community, and then some key issues that pertain to District 4.
We hope you include Talking Fitchburg in there.
I would love that.
We got to make sure you include that link.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, Nicole, thank you so much for stopping in, and we'll look forward to having you back on the show down the road, and keep up the good work.
I look forward to it. Thanks so much, Jeremy.
Thank you.